I never thought I'd wake up in my daughter's body, staring at my own reflection in the bathroom mirror of that godforsaken McMansion she'd bought with my money. Her husband's smug grin flashing back at me from the doorway like he'd won the goddamn lottery. The betrayal hit harder than the vertigo from the swap, some black market experimental treatment gone wrong. Courtesy of the very clinic her husband ran. The one I'd funded with my late husband's life insurance to save lives. And now, trapped in this younger, tighter skin that smelled like vanilla lattes and regret, I realized the truth. She'd orchestrated it all to steal everything I'd built, piece by piece, starting with the house that was supposed to be my sanctuary. But revenge? Oh. It tasted like sweet southern bourbon mixed with the bitter ash of a Carolina barbecue gone cold. I didn't just sign over the deed. I torched the whole empire she'd clawed for, watching it burn from the front row seat of her own life. Her screams echoing in a voice that was mine but wasn't anymore. That first morning after the swap, I puked into the porcelain sink that probably cost more than my old pickup truck back in Raleigh. My hands, her hands, trembled as I gripped the edges, nails manicured to perfection in that soft pink she always favored. The kind that screamed, "I'm the good girl. Trust me." But inside, it was me, Sienna Hargrove, 62 years old in spirit, 55 in the body I'd inherited from the grave of my regrets. The clinic in Charlotte had promised a rejuvenation therapy, some cutting-edge neural mapping bullshit peddled by Dr. Elias Crow, my son-in-law, the golden boy with the Ivy League smile and eyes like a fox eyeing the henhouse. Lila, my only daughter, had begged me to try it. "Mom, you're wasting away in that old house. Dad's gone, and you're just fading. Elias can fix you, make you young again. We can all live together, like a real family." Her voice had dripped with that honeyed southern drawl we'd both picked up from summers at Grandma's in Savannah. But now I saw the venom beneath it. She'd planned this from the start, the accidental overdose of the serum that swapped our consciousnesses during the procedure. Me, the doting mother who'd covered for her every screw-up, now locked in her 28-year-old frame, while she lounged in mine, probably sipping chamomile tea and plotting how to liquidate my assets. The house, the big Victorian on Elm Street in Durham, the one I'd poured my soul into after Harlan died of that heart attack 10 years back, was the crown jewel. I'd turned it into a bed and breakfast. Hargrove Haven, pulling in tourists with ghost stories and pecan pie that could make a Baptist renounce sin. It wasn't just bricks and mortar, it was Harlan's legacy, our blood, sweat, and the small fortune from his mill job that I'd parlayed into something real. Lila had always eyed it covetously, especially after she married Elias 3 years ago. He was the villain in this opera, the one with the power, head of the clinic, board member at Duke Med, whispering in her ear about efficiency and consolidation. I splashed water on her face, my face now, and straightened up, forcing a smile that felt like cracking concrete. From the hallway, Elias's voice boomed, all false concern. "Babe, you okay in there? Rough night." "Babe." The word slithered like a snake in the garden. I stepped out, channeling Lila's bubbly persona as best I could, hips swaying in yoga pants that hugged curves I hadn't seen since Reagan was president. "Just a headache, honey." That wine at dinner. He pulled me into a hug, his cologne sharp as a scalpel, and I fought the urge to drive my knee into his groin. Not yet. Revenge wasn't a sprint, it was a marathon through the kudzu-choked backroads of North Carolina. That day, I played the part. Breakfast at the kitchen island, avocado toast and kale smoothies. Because God forbid we eat like normal folks anymore. Elias scrolled his phone, muttering about investors, while I nodded along, my mind racing. The swap had glitches. Flashes of Lila's memories bled into mine, late-night arguments with Elias over money. Her resentment boiling over how I'd hoarded the family wealth after Dad's death. She'd confessed it all to him once. Drunk on Rose. Mom thinks she's so noble, running that stupid B&B. But it's mine by right. Dad would want me to have it. And Elias, ever the schemer, had nodded, his mind already turning the clinic's experimental wing into a weapon. By afternoon, the hook was set. Lila in my body called from the house. Her voice, gravelly from years of Marlboros and late nights, cracked with feigned frailty. Sweetie, I need you to come by. The lawyer's dropping off those papers for the house. Elias says it's time to consolidate. Consolidate. There it was, the word that masked theft. She wanted me, as Lila, to sign over the deed to Elias, claiming it was for estate planning, to shield it from taxes or some such lie. In truth, it was to flip it for cash, funnel it into the clinic's black hole of debts from Elias's failed trials. I drove the Tesla she'd insisted on, sleek, silent, soulless, through the oak-lined streets of Durham, past the Duke campus where Elias had charmed his way to power. The house loomed like a guilty conscience, porch swing creaking in the breeze. Lila, me, waited on the steps, bundled in my favorite cardigan, looking every bit the vulnerable widow. "Oh, honey," she cooed, pulling me into an embrace that smelled of lavender and deceit. The lawyer, a weaselly type named Hargrove, no relation, thank Christ, was inside. Papers spread like a poker hand. We sat in the parlor, the one with the velvet settee and Harlan's old sea captain's clock-ticking judgment. "It's simple, Mrs. Hargrove," the lawyer droned, sliding the deed across. "Sign here, and the property transfers to Dr. Crow as trustee. Protects your legacy." Legacy. I almost laughed. Lila's eyes, my eyes, gleamed with anticipation, her arthritic fingers twitching under the guise of nervousness. I took the pen, heart pounding like a bass drum at a UVA tailgate. This was the betrayal's core. She'd borne no crime but had pinned mine on me. Years ago, when Lila was 16, she'd crashed Dad's truck into a ravine, drunk on stolen vodka, killing her best friend in the passenger seat. I'd covered it up, bribed the sheriff, buried the truth in a haze of tragic accident and grief counseling. The guilt had eaten me alive, turned me into the martyr mother, funding her whims to atone. But now, in her body, with her future staring me down, I saw the secret for what it was, leverage she'd twisted into a noose. "Sienna?" Lila prompted, using my real name like a slap. The lawyer blinked. She never called me that. I signed, flourish and all, then slid the paper back. "Done. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got a headache." As I left, I caught her exhale, relief flooding her stolen face. She had no idea the storm brewing. Back at the McMansion, Elias was on a call, pacing the study with its wall of medical tomes and taxidermied deer heads from his Tennessee hunting trips. Yes, the swap trials contained. No leaks. Contained. My blood ran cold. This wasn't a one-off, it was a program, swapping the desperate rich with their heirs to preserve vitality. Elias's master plan, immortality for the elite, funded by clinics like his. And Lila, his willing pawn, trading my twilight years for her vanity. That night, as he made love to me, her body responding on autopilot while my mind screamed, I plotted. The first move, access. Lila's phone, biometrically locked, yielded to a forced thumbprint from my old body during a hug the next day. Emails flooded in, shell companies, offshore accounts, the house already listed on Zillow under Elias's LLC. The inheritance, Harlan's mill pension, my B&B profits, the trust fund I'd set up for Lila was next. She'd pressured me to update it last month, naming her sole beneficiary. But now, in her skin, I could rewrite it all. The tension built like a summer squall over the Appalachians. Days blurred into a masquerade, yoga classes where I faked flexibility, brunches with her socialite friends who tittered about aging gracefully, all while I siphoned data from Elias's laptop during his nap. He was cunning. All right, cameras in the clinic, NDAs thicker than a Bible. But I'd raised Lila. I knew every chink in the armor. By week's end, the controversial decision loomed. I called the realtor, the one listing the house, posing as Lila, voice pitched high with excitement. Double the price. Cash buyer only. And donate the proceeds to charity. The realtor paused. MS. Crow? Your husband said, Elias doesn't handle this. It's my call. Click. The house sold in 48 hours to a tech bro from Silicon Valley. Sight unseen. For 3 times its worth. $2 million wired to an account I'd opened in Lila's name. Then rerouted through a maze of nonprofits, women's shelters in Durham, addiction recovery for crash victims like her friend, environmental funds to reclaim the ravine she'd scarred. Lila, in my body, called frantic. What the hell? Sweetie? The house. It's gone. I feigned tears. The kind that came easy in this young throat. Mom, I couldn't let it sit empty. It's for the greater good. Like you always said. Her silence was thunder. Elias took the phone. Voice ice. This isn't funny. Lila. Undo it. But it was done. The donation irrevocable. The inheritance funneled away in a cascade of trusts she'd never touch. The backlash hit like a freight train. Lila showed up at the McMansion, my old body looking haggard. Eyes wild. You bitch, she hissed in the foyer, grabbing my arm, her arm, with surprising strength. You think you can steal my life? I wrenched free. The swap's instability flickering, a migraine. Visions of her childhood tantrums. Your life? This is mine now. You took everything, my body, my home, my soul. For what? His lies. Elias burst in, phone in hand, dialing lawyers. But I was steps ahead. The next phase, exposure. I'd hacked the clinic servers. Old Harlan had taught me basic coding on those rainy afternoons and leaked the swap files to a whistleblower site. Body swap scandal. Duke-affiliated clinic plays God with heirs. The media frenzy erupted. CNN panels debating ethics. Fox News railing against liberal science gone mad. Protesters outside the clinic waving signs about soul theft. Elias's empire cracked. Investors pulled out. The board suspended him. Whispers of FBI probes circling like vultures. Lila, trapped in my aging shell, aged a decade overnight, wrinkles deepening, joints aching with my arthritis. She begged in voicemails, Mom, please. Swap back. I'll give it all up. But the serum's effects were permanent. Elias had lied even to her. The climax brewed in the B&B's old parlor. now stripped bare for the new owners. I lured them there under pretense of a final walkthrough, the rain pounding like Judgment Day. Elias arrived first, soaked, pistol tucked in his waistband, Southern paranoia at its finest. End this, Lila. Or I'll make you. Lila shuffled in behind, my body frail but furious. She's not Lila. You idiot. It's Mom. The confrontation was operatic, dark as a moonless night over the Neuse River. Revelation spilled. Elias's true motive, not just money, but covering his own crime. Years back, he'd botched a surgery on Harlan, my husband, causing a heart attack that killed him. Guilt? No. Fear of malpractice suits. He'd confessed to Lila during their honeymoon, and she'd protected him, just as I'd protected her. The betrayal layered deep. She'd borne my secret crash cover-up, but pinned Harlan's death on me, gaslighting me into believing it was stress from the B&B. You let him kill Dad, I accused, voice steady in her timbre. And you swapped us to erase me, Lila sobbed. He promised it'd be temporary, for us to start over. Elias raised the gun, trembling. Shut up, both of you. The files are gone, we can, but I lunged, young body agile, tackling him. The shot went wild, splintering the mantle. In the scuffle, Lila, me, grabbed a letter opener from the desk, plunging it into his thigh. He howled, dropping the weapon. Sirens wailed distant. A neighbor had called. As cops swarmed, the twist unraveled. The swap wasn't a failure. It was Elias's endgame. Hidden in the leaked files, a neural kill switch, activated by a remote app on his phone. He'd planned to off us both once the assets cleared, claiming suicide pact in our swapped states. But I'd found it first, during my hacks, and fried the server hosting it. The real reversal? Lila hadn't betrayed me out of greed. She'd done it to save me from the cancer diagnosis Elias had hidden, the one in my old body that would have killed me in months. The clinic's therapy was a mercy kill disguised as renewal. Handcuffs clicked on Elias as paramedics loaded him. Lila collapsed, my face streaked with tears. Forgive me, Mom. I knelt. The first genuine touch since the swap. There's nothing left to forgive. But as they wheeled her away, doctors scrambling for a reverse procedure that might not work, I felt the darkness settle. Had I destroyed her for nothing? The house gone. Inheritance scattered to strangers. Our family, a ghost story. In the end, it was tragic. Elias rotted in federal prison for fraud and attempted murder. His empire dust. The reverse swap succeeded. Barely, me back in my creaky bones. Lila in hers, but scarred. The cancer's shadow lingering. We sold the McMansion, split the scraps, and parted like strangers at a Greyhound station. Some say I won. The charities thrived. Justice served. Others whisper I was the monster, dooming my daughter for a vengeance that tasted like ashes. Me? I sit on a rented porch in Asheville, watching Blue Ridge sunsets, wondering if the Real swap was souls all along, who stole whose life. The weeks after the parlor bloodbath blurred into a fevered dream of depositions and detox. The kind of American nightmare where the justice system chews you up and spits out a bill for the privilege. I was back in my own skin by then, 62 and aching like a rusted gate, but the echoes of Lila's youth lingered. A phantom itch under my scalp where her memories had rooted like kudzu. The cops hauled Elias off in zip ties. His Armani suit torn at the knee from the letter opener's kiss. ranting about sovereign rights and neural sovereignty, like some QAnon doc from the fringes. The media ate it up. Body swap horror, mother-daughter nightmare in the Tar Heel state. Lila ended up at Duke Med, the irony bitter as black coffee, under suicide watch. Her body mind no more but battered by the swap's fallout. The doctors said the neural mismatch had accelerated the cancer, stage for now. A cluster of cells that bloomed like kudzu in my lungs, transferred like a parting gift. She'd known. Confessed in a scribbled note smuggled to me via her lawyer. I couldn't watch you die slow.
Mom.
Elias said the swap would buy time. Let me handle the end clean. But he twisted it. Twisted. Understatement of the century. I visited her in that sterile room. Beeping machines and fluorescent hum the soundtrack to our unraveling. She looked small in the bed. Her dark hair fanned like a halo. 4 drip-feeding poisons meant to shrink what had grown in me. You sold the house, she whispered. Voice raw from the tubes. Not accusatory, resigned, like a kid caught with her hand in the cookie jar. I pulled up a vinyl chair. The kind that stuck to your thighs in summer.
Yeah.
And the money's gone. Shelters for girls like your friend Katie would have been. Battered. Broken. Needing a way out after the wreck. Her eyes, blue like Harlan's, filled. Katie. God. I haven't thought of her in years. The secret we'd buried deepest. The crash that started it all. 16-year-old Lila behind the wheel. Peer pressure and Boone's Farm wine turning a joyride into a coffin. Katie's parents sued. But I settled quiet, sold my mother's ring. Cashed in bonds to make it accidental. Lila walked free. But the guilt chained her. You took the fall for me, she said. Always did. Elias.
He used that.
Said I owed him for keeping quiet. Elias. The puppet master. Pulling strings from a federal holding cell in Raleigh. His bail denied after the feds uncovered the clinic's web. Not one swap. But dozens. Rich folks trading husks with comatose relatives. All for a shot at extended warranties on their egos. The controversy raged. Op-eds in the New York Times decrying Eugenics 2.0, pastors in megachurches thundering about, playing God in the Bible Belt. Protests clogged Durham streets. Signs reading my body, my soul, clashing with counter-protesters waving immortality for all. I watched it all from a motel on the outskirts. CNN droning on the ancient TV, wondering if I'd ignited Armageddon or just a sparkler. The inheritance donation? That was the real powder keg.
$2 million.
Earmarked for the Lila Crow Foundation. Ironic, right? But I'd named it for victims of medical malpractice and domestic violence. Funneled through ironclad trusts. Lila's friends, those Botoxed harpies from the country club, swooped like crows, petitioning to reverse it. Theft, they cried on Facebook Lives, painting me as the vengeful crone. Elias's lawyers filed motions, claiming duress. But the judge, a no-nonsense black woman from Greensboro with a stare like steel, laughed them out. MS. Hargrove acted as power of attorney. Case closed. Power. That's what it boiled down to. Elias had wielded it like a scalpel, carving up lives for profit. I'd seen the files, Harlan's autopsy, doctored to hide the surgical error, a nicked artery during a routine bypass. Elias fresh out of residency, cocky as a rooster. He'd confessed to Lila on their wedding night. Champagne fizzing as he spun it romantic. I saved your family from ruin. Now we're even.
But even?
He'd bled us dry, the clinic loans I'd co-signed, the investments in his trials that drained the B&B's coffers. Nights in that motel. I paced the threadbare carpet. Ghosts whispering. Harlan's voice, gruff from mill dust. Sienna?
Girl.
Don't let M grind you down. Lila's laugh, girlish and free from before the wreck. And Elias's smooth as bourbon, promising the world. The tension coiled tighter than a banjo string. Reporters camped outside, thrusting mics like bayonets. Mrs. Hargrove. Was it revenge or justice? One yelled, a kid from the local ABC affiliate with gelled hair and ambition. I slammed the door, but the question festered. Decisions piled up, each more controversial than the last. Should I visit Elias? Confront the devil in his cage? I did, driving the old Ford pickup I'd reclaimed from the house sale.
2 hours to the pen.
He looked diminished behind plexiglass, orange jumpsuit clashing with his patrician nose. Sienna, he drawled,
Leaning in.
You win. But think, the tech works. We could swap back. Start fresh. Lila's dying. Give her your vigor. His eyes gleamed. Same foxfire. I pressed the receiver to my ear. You killed my husband. Stole my daughter. And for what? To play God in scrubs. He smirked. Harlan was collateral. Medicine's war. Sienna. Casualties happen. Casualties. The word ignited something primal. I leaned close, voice low. Your war's over. And the donation? That's my casualty for every Harlan you buried. As guards led him away, he shouted, You'll rot alone, alone. The word echoed on the drive back, past tobacco fields golden in autumn light. Lila worsened. Chemo ravaged her like a Carolina hurricane. I moved into the hospital annex, bunking on a cot that smelled of Lysol and loss. We talked then, real talk, stripping layers like onions at a family reunion. I hated you sometimes, she admitted, bald head shiny under the cap. For taking the blame, making me weak. I stroked her hand, veins mapping our shared blood. And I hated myself for letting you. But the house. That was for us. To break the cycle. She nodded. Tears carving tracks. Donate it all.
Mom.
Make it mean something. The climax loomed, not in gunshots but boardrooms. Elias's trial prep unearthed more, payoffs to politicians, swaps for senators' mistresses. The DOJ offered me immunity for testimony. But the cost? Public crucifixion. Tell the world your daughter was complicit, the prosecutor urged. A shark in a Brooks Brothers suit. Controversial? Hell yes, airing our dirty laundry on national TV. Painting Lila as villain when she lay wasting away. I took the stand in a federal courthouse in Charlotte, wood-paneled and echoing like a cathedral of lies. Cameras flashed as I swore in, Harlan's Bible heavy in my palm.
Dr.
Crow swapped my mind with my daughters to facilitate fraud, I stated, voice steady as Duke's chapel bells. The gallery gasped at the details, the serum, the secrets, the crash I'd covered. Lila watched via feed from her bed, her face pale but proud. Elias glared from the defense table, but his charm curdled under cross-exam. Then the twist. Forensics revealed the swap wasn't total. Residual links, neural echoes, meant Lila had felt every stab of my pain, my rage, during the revenge. She knew, the expert testified. Consciously suppressed, but aware. The courtroom buzzed. Was she victim or accomplice? I met her eyes on the screen. It doesn't change a thing, I mouthed. Verdict day. Rain lashed the windows like tears. Guilty on all counts, manslaughter for Harlan, Fraud for the swaps. Attempted murder for the kill switch. Life. No parole. As they let him out, he locked eyes with me. You destroyed us all.
Us.
The word hung. But the real reversal came post-trial. Lila rallied. Miracle remission. Docs called it spontaneous. We rebuilt. Slow as molasses in January, a tiny bungalow in Wilmington. Her nursing school, irony again. Me writing a memoir that sparked debates on revenge ethics in women's mags. Happy? In fragments, beach walks. Her hand in mine. Harlan's ring back on my finger. Passed down proper. Yet the darkness lingers. You am as Spanish moss. Forum's rage. Was Sienna hero or harpy? Did the donation redeem or ruin? I scroll them sometimes, anonymous in the glow, wondering if the swap ever truly ended. Whose life did I live now, mine? Hers? Or the ghost between? Winter clamped down on the Carolina coast like a vice. Winds off the Atlantic whipping salt into wounds that hadn't fully scabbed. Wilmington's beaches, usually alive with spring breakers and retirees chasing sun, lay barren. Dunes sculpted into accusatory fingers pointing at the sea. Lila and I had chosen this spot for its anonymity, a clobbered cottage on Wrightsville Beach. Far from Durham's prying eyes and Charlotte's courtrooms, where the waves could drown out the what-ifs. But anonymity's a lie in America, the memoir. Swapped souls, a mother's reckoning, hit shelves like a grenade, propelling us back into the spotlight we'd fled. I wrote it in fevered bursts, holed up in the cottage's attic while Lila slept off chemo hangovers downstairs. The Advance bought the place outright, modest. 2 bedrooms with a porch swing that creaked like Harlan's old rocking chair. No B&B grandeur. Just creaky floors and a kitchen where we burned biscuits trying to recreate Grandma's recipe. You're a writer now, Mom, Lila teased one morning, her hair growing back in soft spikes, color returning to cheeks that had mirrored my own gauntness. I shrugged, stirring grits. Better than running from ghosts. The book was catharsis wrapped in controversy. Chapters dissecting the swap's mechanics like a frog in bio class, but laced with the raw meat of betrayal. Publishers loved the hook. What if you woke up as your child, holding the keys to their ruin? Sales spiked after a 60-minute segment, me, composed in pearls and pumps, recounting the parlor melee without flinching. Revenge isn't sweet, I told Morley. It's necessary surgery. Lila watched the airing from the couch. Popcorn forgotten. You make me sound redeemable. I ruffled her new fuzz. Because you are, kiddo. But redemption slippery as marsh mud. Elias's appeals dragged, his legal team spinning yarns of experimental consent and familial coercion. Tabloids dredged the crash. Katie's ghost resurrected in pixelated yearbook photos. Her parents emerging from obscurity to sue the estate for emotional damages. They got zilch. The donation trusts were bulletproof. But the headline stung. Cover-up queen strikes again. Lila crumbled that week, hiding in bed with blinds drawn. I killed her.
Mom.
And you paid for it. I sat vigil, rubbing her back like when she was 5 and scared of thunder. We both paid. But paying forward? That's the win. The antagonist's shadow lengthened. Elias. From his cell. Orchestrated proxies, anonymous tips to bloggers claiming the swap was my idea. A desperate bid for youth. Sienna Hargrove, vanity's victim or vengeful viper? One post blared, linking to doctored emails. The tension ratcheted. Death threats pinged my inbox. Southern Gothic flavor. Witches like you burn in Carolina. We installed cameras. got a restraining order on a cousin of Elias's who'd shown up drunk at the cottage, pounding the door with justice for the doc. Controversial decisions multiplied like rabbits in spring. Lila wanted kids desperately. Post-remission. Her biological clock ticking louder than the cottage's mantle clock.
Adopt,
I suggested, thinking of Katie's orphaned little brother, now grown but adrift. She shook her head. Biological. Tie us to something unbroken. IVF consultations in Raleigh. Needles and hopes. But each negative test chipped at our fragile peace. It's punishment, she wept after the third. I held her, whispering, or it's life, refusing to be scripted. Meanwhile, the donations ripple spread. The women's shelters bloomed, Hargrove houses, they called them. Safe havens from men like Elias. I toured one in Fayetteville, hugging survivors whose stories echoed Lila's suppressed screams during the swap. You gave us wings, the director said, a tough broad with tattoos peeking from her scrubs. But controversy brewed. Fiscal watchdogs questioned the charity's ties to me. Sniffing self-aggrandizement. A Senate hearing loomed, Subcommittee on Medical Ethics, subpoenaing my testimony. Relive it all? Lila begged. Let it die. I went, suit starched, driving the pickup through tobacco country under gray skies. The Capitol Hill room was a pressure cooker, senators posturing, cameras whirring, Elias's empty chair a taunt via video link from prison. Mrs. Hargrove, the chairwoman drawled, a Texas Republican with steel hair. Your actions selling the family home, donating to causes, were they justice or jihad? The word jihad hung, politically charged as a lit match in dry grass. I met her gaze. Justice. Senator. My daughter bore my secrets. I bore her future. The house was collateral, like my husband's life to that man. Gasps rippled. Elias smirked on screen. The twist during questioning. A whistleblower from the clinic, a nurse named Maria who'd assisted the swaps, testified.
Dr.
Crow didn't botch Harlan Hargrove's surgery, she said, voice quavering. Sienna did. The room exploded.
Me?
I'd been in the waiting room, knitting booties for the grandchild that never came. But flashes from the swap, Lila's memories, I'd suppressed. No.
Wait.
The reversal gutted me. Harlan's routine bypass was exploratory. I'd insisted on it. Against his wishes. After finding a lump I thought was cancer. Elias operated. But the complication stemmed from my push, stress elevating his blood pressure pre-op, triggering the fatal clot. Lila knew. Elias had told her post-swap. Part of his gaslighting. Your mom's guilt made her reckless. She'd hidden it to protect me, just as I'd hidden the crash. The hearing adjourned in chaos. Reporters swarmed like locusts. Back home, Lila waited on the porch, hurricane lamp flickering. It's true, she said flatly. I found the records. Didn't want you carrying more. Betrayal inverted. We'd both shouldered crimes for each other. A Mobius strip of maternal lies. The darkness deepened that night, waves crashing like accusations. I walked the beach alone, shells crunching underfoot, contemplating the ultimate controversy, mercy killing. Lila's remission fragile. If it failed, would I swap again? End her suffering? The thought you am, tense as a noose. But dawn broke pink over the Atlantic. Harlan's voice in the surf. Fight fair. Sienna. We pivoted. Lila shelved IVF for foster care, 3 siblings. Echoes of our broken family. The memoir's sequel brewed. Not revenge, but reconciliation. Elias's appeal failed. He suicided in his cell. Note blaming the hag. Poetic, if cruel. Happy threads woven. Lila's first foster kid calling her mama. My book club in town debating endings over sweet tea. Yet the debate indoors, online forums, bar stools and beach dives. Was our cycle broken or just postponed? I sip bourbon on the porch, watching stars wheel, knowing the swap taught one truth. Revenge returns you to yourself, scarred but whole. Or does it? The question lingers, dark as the tide pulling out. Spring thawed the coast's grip, azaleas exploding in pinks and whites along the cottage fence like nature's defiant graffiti, mocking the frostbite of winter's revelations. Lila's fosters Jaden, 10, with a gap-toothed grin, Mia, 7, braids flying, and little Theo, 4. All elbows and questions turned our quiet exile into a circus of chaos and crayons. Mama Sienna, Jaden hollered one morning, tackling my legs as I flipped pancakes, syrup sticking to everything like unresolved grudges. Lila beamed from the table, her remission holding like a tenuous truce. Scars from the port hidden under a tank top that read Survivor in faded script. The hearing's bombast faded to footnotes in news cycles, eclipsed by fresher scandals, a crypto crash, a DC hookup tape, but its shrapnel embedded deep. You pushed Dad's surgery? Lila had asked that dawn on the beach, voice cracking like oyster shells. I'd nodded, salt wind stinging eyes already brimming. Thought I was saving him. Turned out, I hurried him, the confession unburdened, but birthed new ghosts. Was Elias the villain? Or had I forged his blade? Weed therapy'd it out, group sessions in a strip mall office. Circle of folding chairs where foster parents swapped war stories over stale donuts. Codependency, the counselor droned, a Yankee transplant with a beard like ZZ Top. Y'all built a fortress of secrets. Time to breach it. America's rhythm pulsed on. Indifferent. March Madness brackets in every diner. Pollen count warnings on the radio. Lila's nursing certification looming like a beacon. She volunteered at the local ER, triaging spring breakers with jellyfish stings and beer bellies. Her hands steady now where they'd once trembled in my body. Feels right, she said over fish tacos at the pier. Gulls wheeling overhead. Helping without strings. I nodded, chasing fries with malt vinegar. Pride swelling like the tide. The donations' legacy bloomed too, Hargrove houses expanding to Wilmington, ribbon cutting with local Pauls who eyed me wary, remembering the jihad quip. But tension simmered. Dark undercurrents in our U.M. idol. Elias's suicide note leaked, scrawled on toilet paper. For the tabloids, Sienna's vengeance killed my soul. May God judge the witch. Witch hunts ensued online. Doxing attempts mapping our cottage on Google Earth. A package arrived one April Fool's, manure dumped on the porch. Anonymous card, fertilizer for your bullshit charity. The kids cried, Jaden punched a wall. Tiny fist blooming purple. Lila raged, calling cops who shrugged it off as pranks. I installed floodlights. Slept with Harlan's old Remington under the bed. Its weight a controversial comfort in gun-loving Carolina. Decisions gnawed, each laced with controversy. Foster permanency hearings approached. Could we adopt? With our history? Social workers probed. Notebooks flipping like judgment pages. The body swap incident. One probed gently. A soft-spoken Latina with kind eyes. How's that affect stability? Lila squeezed my hand under the table. It taught us resilience, I said. Broke us to rebuild stronger. They approved, papers signing us as guardians. But doubt lingered. Were we saving these kids or dooming them to our cycle? The plot thickened with a ghost from the clinic, Maria the nurse, now whistleblower star, reaching out via encrypted email. More files, she wrote. Elias had a partner. Not dead. My stomach nodded. We'd assumed his web solo. Meet in a Raleigh coffee shop. Neutral ground. Away from prying eyes. Lila stayed home with the brood. Oblivious, I spared her.
Or so I told myself.
Maria slid a USB across Formica. Her face lined deeper than last hearing. Board member at Duke. Funded the swaps. Names Victor Langston. Pharma Air. Silent type. Victor. The name slithered. Familiar from clinic galas I'd attended pre-swap. Toasting champagne flutes with men in tuxes who smelled of old money. He'd cornered me once. Post Harlan's death. Condolences.
Sienna.
Elias is brilliant, but needs backers like you. Backers. I'd funneled B&B profits his way. Blind faith in family.
Now?
He was the Maun MO behind the curtain. Power incarnate. Private jets. Lobbyists. Strings pulling Elias like a marionette. The drive back was a blur. USB burning in my pocket like contraband. Home. I plugged it into the ancient laptop. Password cracking under Maria's hints. Files cascaded. Emails plotting Harlan's expedited and to test swap viability on willing subjects. Victor. Collateral acceptable. Proceed. And Lila? Listed as asset acquisition. Her role to seduce me into the clinic. Inheritance the prize. Betrayals depth plumbed new lows. She'd been groomed from the wedding. Victor's shadow puppeteering her doubts. Confrontation brewed. Tense as a still before lightning. I tracked Victor to his Raleigh estate, a sprawling mock Tudor on manicured acres. Gates humming electric. Posed as a reporter. Bluffed past security with a fake press pass from the memoir's publicity kit. He received me in a library redolent of leather and lies. Crystal decanter glinting. Sienna Hargrove, he purred, rising from a wingback. The swap survivor. To what do I owe? 65. Silver fox with eyes like polished obsidian. I didn't sit. You killed my husband. Used my daughter. He chuckled, pouring scotch. Hyperbole. Harlan's death advanced science. Immortality. Sienna, think of it. The arrogance. Pure American hubris. Manifest destiny in a lab coat. I slid the USB across mahogany. Your files say otherwise. His face tightened, but he recovered smooth. Leverage?
Charming.
But untouchable. Contributions to campaigns. Friends in high places. The threat implicit. Power flexing like a bicep. The controversial pivot. I didn't threaten back. Instead, join the donation. Fund the houses. Atonement.
He laughed outright.
Blackmail via charity? Quaint. But doubt flickered. The hearing's exposure had singed his edges. Stock stipping. We dickered, him wiring $1 million to the trusts. Me burying the files. Truce, he said. Handshake clammy. Driving away. Rain sheeting windshield. I wondered. Justice or capitulation? Back home. Lila sensed the shift. What happened? Over wine on the porch.
Kids' Abed.
I spilled. Her face crumpled.
Victor?
He was at the wedding. Said Elias was the future. The secret unburied another layer. She'd suspected his influence. Silenced by love's blinders. We cried then. ugly sobs mingling with cricket chorus. The weight lifting fractionally. Climax crested in summer swelter. Victor reneged, no wire. Instead, a lawsuit against the charities for defamation. Headline screamed, Pharma Titan vs. Swap Widow. Protests reignited. Our cottage a pilgrimage site for true believers and trolls. Lila's work suffered, shifts cut amid scrutiny. The kids absorbed it. Jaden drawing bad wizards in crayon. The twist reversed again, Maria's follow-up, Victor's own swap. Body of a 20-year-old model. Mind rotting from rejection. He's unraveling, she emailed. Use it. I did. Anonymously tipping feds to his neural logs. Raid at dawn. Victor dragged from his pool in silk boxers. The model husk convulsing. His empire crumbled. Arrests. Asset freezes. The million donated by court order. Lila and I watched the news. Foster's glued to cartoons oblivious. We did that, she whispered. I nodded. But the darkness whispered back. At what cost? Victor's suicide followed. Note echoing Elias's. Pattern or plague. Ending mirrored. Debatable as election night. Lila proposed. Ring from a pawn shop. Simple gold. Marry me to this life. Mom,
We did.
courthouse elopement with kids as witnesses. Judge a grizzled vet who winked at our unconventional. Happy? In bursts, barbecues on the beach. Theo's first words, love you. Mia's hugs fierce. But the tension lingers. Gay Tran Kai in quiet moments. Did I avenge or avenge too much? The donations stand. Houses thriving. But whispers persist. Was Sienna savior or saboteur? I pen the final chapter. Salt air thick. Knowing truth's a swap without end. Yours. Mine. The world's. Autumn gilded the coast in amber and rust. Leaves pirouetting from oaks like confetti at a funeral we hadn't planned. The cottage stood sentinel against nor'easters. Its shutters rattling protests. Much like the nation debating our saga in podcasts and parlors from sea to shining sea. Lila's wedding band caught the light as she chased Theo across the yard. Laughter peeling bright against the surf's eternal grumble, a sound we'd come to crave. White noise for nightmares. The Fosters were ours now. Legally etched in ink and heart. Jaden's adoption day marked with ice cream smears and a cake that listed to one side like our early attempts at normal. The lawsuit settled in a flurry of NDAs and non-disclosures. Victor's frozen assets thawed into the trusts. Swelling Hargrove houses to a network spanning the Southeast. I keynote at their gala in Atlanta one crisp October eve. Spotlight hot, as interrogation lamps. Crowd a mix of philanthropists and skeptics, sipping Chardonnay. Revenge isn't the end, I said. Voice amplified but steady. It's the forge for something fiercer, repair. Applause thundered. But back rows muttered. Enabler. One hissed. Close enough to sting. Controversy's gift. It keeps you sharp.
Or shatters you slow.
Lila thrived in scrubs. Night shifts at the ER blending into days of school runs and story hours. Her remission a defiant middle finger to statistics. Feels like grace, she confided over bonfires. Sparks ascending like prayers. But Grace's edges, Elias's ghost haunted in anniversaries, the swap date. Harlan's birthday, triggering panic attacks where she'd wake gasping. Convinced she was me again. Therapy evolved to EMDR. Eye movements chasing demons. Me holding her hand through the beeps. Your fault too, she'd gasp mid-session. I'd nod. And yours. That's family. The hidden secret resurfaced in a manila envelope. Postmarked anonymous, clinic remnants. A video log of the swap procedure. I watched alone. Laptop glow casting shadows like accusing fingers. There I was, my old body on the table. Lila's hovering anxious, Elias narrating clinical. But his eyes.
Hungry.
The twist within, a subliminal directive in the serum. Not just swap, but suggestion, amplifying resentments, forcing betrayals to surface. Designed to break bonds, Maria confirmed via call. Voice hushed from her new life in witness protection. Victor's idea. Test human limits.
Break.
Weed shattered. All right. House sold. Inheritance evaporated. Lives upended. But from shards, mosaic. The video leaked my doing, timed to bury Victor's lingering defenders. Fallout. Congressional bills banning neural tech. Ethicists canonizing our case in journals. The Hargrove precedent, they called it, debating free will over faculty mixers. I fielded invites to TEDx. Declined most. The road-weary preacher in me preferred porch sermons to spotlights. Controversial crossroads multiplied. Jaden. Hitting puberty jagged. Unearthed the crash story via a school project on family heroes. You covered for Aunt Lila? He demanded, eyes wide in the kitchen lamplight. Lila froze mid-dishwashing. I knelt, honest as tide pools. Heroes mess up.
Kid.
We own it. Fix it. He nodded, processing slow. But the seed planted, would our truths scar or steal him? Elias's final specter, a letter from his mother. Postmarked Tennessee. Arriving like fallout. You murdered my son, it scrawled. Bible verses underscoring venom. Enclosed, a photo of baby Elias. Innocent as Theo. Lila burned it in the fire pit. Ashes scattering on wind. No more ghosts. But ghosts gossip. Her pregnancy test, positive. Miracle from a one-night lapse with a coworker, stirred the pot. Keep it, I asked. Hand on her still flat belly. Or abort the complication? She chose keep. Defiant. But debates raged internal, tied to normalcy, or tempt fate's dark humor. The climax crested not in violence, but verdict, Lila's bar exam. Her nursing bridge to law. Chasing justice from the other side. Study marathons lit the cottage like a beacon. Me quizzing over coffee. Kids coloring flashcards. Exam day. I drove her to Raleigh. Rain slicking I-40 like tears. You'll crush it, I said, hugging fierce. She did, top percentile. Offer from a firm specializing in medmal. For Harlan, she toasted that night. Champagne flutes clinking with the kids' juice glasses. But the ultimate twist inverted all, the subliminal directive, reversible. Maria's final gift, a counter serum. Experimental. Requiring mutual consent. Swap back your echoes, she urged. We did. In a Wilmington clinic far from Duke's taint, voluntary. Monitored. A ritual of reclamation. Waking post-procedure. No vertigo. Just clarity. Resentments dissolved. Secrets barbs dulled. I'm me, Lila whispered. Hand on bump. Fully. The reversal? We'd never truly swap souls. The serum amplified shadows. But light was ours to claim. Ending draped in debatable dusk. Baby arrived winter's cusp, a girl. Named Katie Grace. Red-haired and squalling. Bridge to the past. The family swelled. Cottage bursting. Forcing a move to a bigger place up the shore. Nothing grand. Just enough for chaos and Christmas lights. Happy? In the American way, flawed. Fierce. with porches for pondering and beaches for baptisms. Yet undercurrents persist. Song tang in the quiet, forum's flame, Sienna's redemption arc, genuine or grift. Barflies in beach bars argue over beers. She donated millions, saint. Ruined her kids, sinner. I eavesdrop sometimes, smiling into my scotch. Knowing truth's snow pole. Revenge birthed this, house ashes fertilizing new roots. Inheritance seeds in stranger's soil.
Bi kịch alcohol.
You decide. Reader. As waves erase footprints.
Me.
I rock on the porch. Harlan's ghost nodding approval. Lila's laugh the sweetest hook. Life swaps on, and we choose the skin we wear.